Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. My name is Stephanie Bean. I am the Instructional Innovation Coach at Grafton High School. It has been my honor to conduct several elementary panels on different models of instruction. We all know what a different time this is, this time of pandemic teaching, virtual learning, hybrid instruction, and the idea for these panels came from Dr. Cagle, our Associate Director of EdTech, Innovation, all those other fancy words. She visited with some incredible elementary teachers' classrooms and then invited them to be part of these teacher panels, because honestly, who best to learn from in PD than teachers themselves? So a few weeks ago, we had our first panel about concurrent instruction that is recorded. So if you're interested, let your IIC know. They can hook you up with getting a copy of that recording. And this week we are featuring our third grade team from Tab Elementary School, and they are going to be sharing their experience with a different model, synchronous and asynchronous, and what exactly that means. So you'll see that on my screen, I have our awesome panel featured. They're going to keep their cameras on the entire time, having just a conversation amongst colleagues. And you'll also see the PowerPoint slide that I'm going to use to guide us through our conversation. You'll notice, we have a bit of a Valentine's theme going on with February, but we're also thinking this as a matchmaking setup, that we are going to present to you several instructional models, and you're going to have to find the one that fits best for you, your teaching personality, your classroom management style, and your students. So we hope that you enjoy this presentation today. Just a couple rules for our matchmaking. We are going to keep our chat closed. You'll notice that there's a sorry chat closed sign, but there is a form listed where you can share any questions that you have. You can fill that form out as many times as you need to, ask any questions throughout the panel, with the idea that we are going to actually answer these questions next week in a Q&A conversation panel at 1 o'clock. So please, if you are a participant joining us, keep your camera off and keep your microphone muted so we can focus on what these panelists have to say. And remember that these are just ideas, not requirements, simply suggestions, things to consider. We have found success in these instructional models, and we hope that you will too. So remember, our purpose here today is to acknowledge that pandemic teaching can be hard, it can be challenging. We're going to share their experiences, share some solutions, and the idea is if you are able to collaborate with your grade level team or with your PLC team, that will hopefully reduce some stress, reduce some anxiety, and see fantastic results for your students. This is one of my favorite quotes to live by: be brave enough to be bad at something new. So it may be a challenge to get started with any of these instructional models. I like that, Ms. Dawson. Like, yeah, let's do it. Reminds me of that meme, the little boy. Okay, so I can get off track really easy, especially in the afternoon. So just keep that in mind as we talk through this conversation, that it might sound crazy to you. It might sound like, oh goodness, that's a lot. But we're all doing it for kids, and got to be brave sometimes and try something new. So here are our matchmakers for today. They are joining us on camera. April, Tammy, Heather, Lisa, Diane, we are so thankful for your team, your collaboration efforts, your friendships. I tweeted out about you guys earlier today, and I don't have any of you guys on my Twitter to even tag you, but I said what a joy it was to just work with educators that you can tell they love what they're doing, right? And with so many of us being parents ourselves, we just want our kids to be in a classroom where the person really enjoys being there and really enjoys their craft and really loves kids. And all of you guys really radiate that. And so it is awesome to be able to collaborate with this fantastic team today. So we're going to kick it off and get started. Don't want to waste anybody's time. Maybe your principal sent out this email and you saw that there's this question out there about asynchronous, synchronous. Yeah, I've heard those words, but I don't really know what they mean. So let's start off with a very basic question. What is this model exactly, and what does it look like in the classroom? April, can you start us off for us?
Sure, and we'll throw out one more word that's been thrown at us recently: concurrent. So asynchronous, synchronous, and then concurrent. So we kind of have the synchronous down pat. That's our live teaching. It's what we normally do. But the asynchronous, we were finding we weren't getting as much success from the kids. We weren't getting the buy-in. So the asynchronous days are the days where the kids are at home. We all know that. The kids are at home. They're going through our Canvas modules that we've worked tirelessly into the morning to get everything straight for the kids. And then maybe they come in when they come back on Thursday and they still don't know what they were supposed to learn. So we had to come up with a way to make asynchronous learning a little bit more conducive for our younger kids. We have third graders, obviously. So our asynchronous model works in a somewhat concurrent way. So we have decided to use videos so that whatever our synchronous kids are doing in class with us, our asynchronous kids have a video that they are watching the same exact lesson we did in class with our live kids. We've taped that lesson and we are actually showing it to the asynchronous kids with an accountability piece when we're done with it. So let's just say we're doing fractions and, you know, Miss Emerson's taking the kids on a tour around Tab Elementary and they're looking for fractions. And in the end, they will be held accountable for, what was that? What was shown that had 2/4 green? And they may have to even rewind the video and go find what they were looking for. But that holds them accountable for what the video was instructing, but it also makes it to where the kids are not falling behind and they are not missing a beat. So that in turn makes our asynchronous learning concurrent, which means they're learning the same thing at the same time as our live kids.
And the only thing that we added to what we were doing before, which is what most of our counties doing right now, which is if they're in person on Monday, Tuesday, then on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're working on those asynchronous activities. And then we repeat that same instruction for our Thursday, Friday kids while they do those asynchronous activities the following week, or however you guys do that flip-flop model. We just added an extra layer. So like Miss Dawson, April Dawson said, we added a video to our Canvas page that is a little bit, I mean, it's prepared and they can go back and rewind and watch any of the lessons or the concepts, but we also get to bring in those manipulatives and those models that we weren't able to do when we were just typing out Canvas pages. So that was another layer we added to make it more to reach our other students that need some kind of visual. Another part of our asynchronous work is a guided example, just like we do in class when we're giving that lesson, or ask a student a question in the discussion post. And then the piece that isn't new for most of you guys is adding that Canvas activity. Sometimes it's our Seesaw activity, sometimes it's a Canvas quiz activity, or sometimes it's something like Flipgrid or any of the other programs and apps we've added to our Canvas models.
That is fantastic. It really feels like it's a perfect combination that you're able to focus on the group that's in front of you in person, but you're also able to engage those students that are at home so they don't feel like they don't have any support those days, and keep things going, keep the flow going, because of course that's what all teachers want. That consistency is so important. We're so happy that you found a model that is working and that you're able to share with others. So maybe a teacher that's joined us is thinking, okay, you know, that sounds great, but I do not have extra cameras laying around. I don't have the fancy ring light to make my complexion look good. Like, how do you even get this going? What are the tools you use to implement this model? Heather, Tammy, can you share with us what you guys have going on? It wouldn't be a virtual meeting if I didn't say that somebody's on. Yep. I couldn't. Okay, you're good.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Here we go. Okay. Rest assured, you don't need anything fancy to carry out the mini lesson videos that we prepare for our kids. We don't have a ring light to make us look fabulous. We don't have any special cameras. We have our school issued devices or our own laptops. All you need is a webcam and you're good to go. So we use 3 different modes of delivering our mini lessons through videos. And our first is Canvas Studio. Our second is PowerPoint with the recording feature where it has our little face at the bottom of the screen. So we walk through the PowerPoint, lead the lesson. and the child can see us talking at the bottom of the PowerPoint. And we also have the hover cam feature where we can record. So I think one of our most commonly used is Canvas Studio. And Canvas Studio, we have found, gives us about a 10 to 15 minute-ish time frame to work with to create these mini lessons that can be powerful and effective for our children at home. So whatever our kids are seeing in class, they're also getting at home, so they're not feeling like they're missing out. Now, we thought for a while, actually up until just a few hours ago, before it was shared with us, that Canvas had limited features with trimming in case you make an error in the video. And one of our virtual teammates, Miss Tammy Dewan, she said, actually, there are some cool features within Canvas where you can trim a video if you make an error, and you can even pause to go collect your manipulatives, or if you pause, if you make a mistake and need to kind of recollect your thoughts, you can do so. So originally, we thought for a while, up until this morning, that Canvas, if you made an error, sorry about it, you got to kind of cover up your mistakes, or you got to re-record, which it can be laborsome sometimes. But what we've learned is you just go with the flow as much as possible. For instance, April and I were creating a video for reading, and she was pretending like she was the famous Dominique Dawes, the professional gymnast. So she did a cartwheel coming into the video, and I was laughing hysterically in charge of operating the computer. And I didn't notice until we were rewatching it that her backside of her shirt flew up and exposed too much of her skin to then show our parents at home and students. So we went through some time with trying to figure out through YouTube searches how to cut down this video. And then Tammy shared with us this morning that there is a trim feature. Before you hit the finish button, you can trim out any boo-boos, and then you can also pause along the way if you need to. Long story short, it ended up being a blessing in disguise because we said, you know what, we think we have a better idea for this. And we ended up re-recording in like a DJ type of setting, like a radio talk show host, which I think will be.
I actually have it.
Oh, okay, ready. And then I'll loop back to our two other modes that we use.
Okay, so Stephanie, if I am a presenter, I can go ahead and share screen.
Yep, you should be good.
All right.
For right now.
Perfect. Okay, guys, this is silly, but we're going to do it anyways. Okay.
I'm going to preface it first.
Oh, wait. Now, if you see, if you want to, I'm down here in the corner. This is actually, if you want to go and talk about the technique that we used here.
Yes. So when our particular Canvas Studio video for this lesson did not work out, we decided to record it in PowerPoint. So while Canvas Studio is absolutely wonderful, we also like this mode. And you can walk through the slides in your PowerPoint while your face is at the bottom. So for this, April acted like she was the radio show host, and she had her music bumping, grooving, and then she was acting like she was interviewing me, Dominique Dawes, behind the scenes to walk through how we summarize a biography. So without further ado, we'll show you a little glimpse of it.
All right. You know what? I am going to unshare because I did not share sound with you. So let me go back. Technology.
It's not gonna work.
It might not work. Let's see, but I will.
So we have a special guest joining us today. But before I introduce our special guest, we are actually going to read about her. We are so lucky to have gotten our hands on one of the first releases of a biography on Dominique Dawes. She is a U.S. Olympic medal winning gymnast. Woo! All right, guys. So what we're going to do is we are going to take this time to go ahead and read our biography about Dominique Dawes. So Dominique was an extremely energetic child. So when she was 6, her parents took, we are so lucky to be, hey guys, we are so lucky to be here at TES 97.8 radio station today. All right, guys, so we have a special guest joining us.
Oh, you're muted.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I'm pausing it there, but you can get the gist of it. I actually had rewound it because you didn't get the beginning of it with the songs and the music and all that kind of good stuff, but because it started halfway through. But that's the gist of it, and that's the ease of it. Like literally those are student headphones. And if you could hear the kids after, their giggles and their laughs, and that was Miss Emerson, that wasn't Dominique Dawes. So it was pretty exciting to be able to do it this way. I'm going to let Heather and Tammy take it back over, but that was just an easy way where you can see how your face is in the corner and you can still project whatever you want on your screen. So we did a PowerPoint. I'm going to unshare.
So what I especially love about the PowerPoint recording feature is, one, it's super easy to use, and how I figured out was in a 5-minute tutorial just searching on YouTube. And then 2, the ease of deleting a slide if you don't like what you just said. Usually we have a rule, don't go back and rewatch whatever you just made, because then you'll want to do it over and over and over again.
Do not.
And we need to prove to our students we're not perfect. And we know that, you know, as humans, even our students aren't perfect, even though they might think they are sometimes. So it's very important to show them that we're all human. So if you want to, though, delete a certain slide that you didn't absolutely love, you have that option, so you don't have to wipe out and start from the beginning, which I especially like when I'm walking through like test formatted types of questions with them and explaining certain things. So the ease of PowerPoint is one of my favorites. And then Tammy's going to talk to us about the hovercam use.
Yes. All right, I'm going to share my screen so I can show you different models of how you can use Canvas Studio. So if you go directly into Studio, then all of your videos display nicely and you have a nice record of all the videos that you've done. Because you can also do this directly into your module as your students do. And I wanted to start, so there's different ways, right? So you can just make it show, this is my daughter. So she helps me with a lot of the videos. So if you're stage fright, you can also have your students or your kids, but you can just use your camera. So that's one way. And then like Heather said, the PowerPoint and the person, or you can just use your hover camera. So here's a science experiment we did. It said, can a solid go through a liquid? So I have my hover camera with my props, the cups and the paper towels, and then I'm in the corner talking. So that's an example. And what they talked about before, when you use your hover cam, you can also pause it. So here's a hover cam. I did a lesson on elapsed time, and I was able to show with my hover cam, and then I was able to pause it and then go get my clock or get my new problem and get all my props and then play it again. So you can go back and forth between your hover cam and your screen and also just your camera. So I just did this one just now during lunch because we're going to be doing an experiment on the Egyptian mummification, and we're going to use apples. And so I wanted to make sure they had the instructions. And then I had to turn it directly just on my face because I had to hold up all of the items they need, like the salt. And so for this one, they're just going to watch me. I told them don't do it at home because I know they can't do experiments at home. But that way I can just pause it and go back and forth between hover cam, my webcam, and also PowerPoint or even Canvas pages. That's all.
You guys have definitely reviewed some of my favorite tools. Just getting the camera straight again. I appreciate you sharing your screen and giving us actual examples of what you all use. The record feature in PowerPoint is super easy to manage, and so is Canvas Studio. I know myself as an IIC, all of the videos I record for my staff and students, I do in Canvas Studio, and I use the pause feature frequently to capture one screen and then move over to the next thing that I want to show. And practice makes perfect. I've definitely developed the technique as I moved along, and really, this is the best time to plug the IICs in your building. They are super experienced and knowledgeable with all of these ed tech tools. We even have a video series out about Canvas Studio, so you can either check that out on your own or see your IIC just to get things rolling, because those are all super useful tools. Maybe you're thinking, okay, then I have a laptop, I have a Canvas account, I can do this, but when do you do this, right? Teachers are so busy, every minute is valuable. That's why we so appreciate people joining us today and our panelists joining us today. But how do you have time? Like, man, we saw that video, like, what are those headphones, and where do you do all this? Are you up all night? When do you do the work, and when do your students prep the work?
We all kind of knew that this was going to be the time where we would get the boos and oh, there's no way I can do it. It's just too much. And we kind of thought that at first. Tammy started doing it, and then we all started kind of jumping on board. Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. And believe it or not, it doesn't really require but maybe 20 extra minutes to get those videos in there. And sometimes it's not even 20 minutes. I know 3 of us, when we were on our lunch break, we ate lunch, and 3 of us right here did a video. So we did our videos for Thursday and Friday. So it was just that quick. So basically how it works is you already have your lessons planned for every day of the week. So you don't need to get any extra materials. You don't have to do any extra preparation. All you're doing is simply duplicating your live lesson into a video. And so when your kids come back in, everyone, remember that book we read last week? Everyone will remember the book you read last week. Or do you remember when we talked about area of a set, or fractions of a set, or the regrouping model in multiplication? Everyone will, because everyone's moving at the same pace, because the videos are simply duplicating what we're doing live. So the short of it is, it only takes about 20 extra minutes a day to get your video recorded and get it posted. The thing will be is teachers are often perfectionists. So that's been something we've all really had to get over. For example, just the little short video I saw, I had to reference the fact that I added an extra syllable in the word gymnast. And so I said gymnast because I was so excited and being in my, I guess, in that mode of being the DJ. But I certainly wasn't going to go and re-record because we were already recording that one for the second time. So I think that is the biggest part we have to get over, is that while we do want to give our kids the very best that we can every single second of the day, sometimes there's little mistakes. And what we were saying before is we might make a little thing underneath the video, sorry about my crazy hair day. And the kids come in the next day, I saw your crazy hair day video, Miss Dawson, or anything like that. So I think we just have to get over the fact that the kids really don't care if, your hair looked crazy, or you mispronounce a word and you say, I'm sorry, my fluency was off just then. Let me read that again. And they're totally fine with that. So, but it's worth the benefit of the outcome is worth the extra time that's put in, I would say, above everything else.
I think it makes us super relatable to the kids and their families as well, because we know there are some helicopter parents that are right beside their kids and they're tuning right in, which I think was intimidating for some of us in the beginning. But honestly, the feedback that we have gotten from the parents has been nothing but supportive and positive. So while this makes us totally relatable with our little crazy hair days or whatever we might allude to, also, we can use some of our mistakes to our advantage in a way and have that as a discussion piece below the actual video. Can you spot the error that we made maybe with this time clock, or something we said, or something that we wrote? And then it's causing them to look deeper and be detectives to look for that boo-boo, to yet again reiterate, we're human, we're learning right along with you guys. So I would say that with reading videos, we are able to prepare a little bit further out, like maybe the week before while we have our progression. We can usually stay on track. With math, we generally see a little bit more remediation with different skills. So usually the day before is about when we are recording. That way we know what our kids are missing and we can speak to where they are at, whereas a week prior, probably we can't foresee all of the misconceptions they might have that we might need to teach to. So overall, yes, it is a little bit more pinch of time, but we have seen remediation go down. The interest at home has been heightened with students' asynchronous days, and all around it's been pretty positive.
I think also, though, with the planning, it's not being taught by one teacher. You're pulling in the strength of all of us. So third grade is not being taught by, just Ms. Dawson or, just myself or somebody else. It's all of us teaching the kids this year, because we're all working and planning and bringing in our strengths and our materials and suggestions. So I think that's also really important when it comes to the planning and the, working out the modules and stuff, that it's a village.
And I think our parents come back all the time with that. I can't tell you how many parents, oh, it takes a village. Thank you so much. It takes a village. I have had that in Remind. I can't even count how many times. Just so they're understanding that we're working together as a team. So that's been nice.
And if you're a Tab Tiger, then you know our school motto is together everyone succeeds. And this team, we live up to that. She is. But really, we have every single person on this team, whether they're in front of the camera or behind the camera, spending their time just building up these Canvas modules, whether it's a video or the activity.
And I don't think it's any more time that we were doing prior to doing it this way. So when we were doing the flip-flop model, we were still working at the same amount of hours, the same amount of effort being put in. Then we went to this concurrent model, which really that's what this is a concurrent model. I don't think there's any more time being invested. I think it's just being invested differently.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So we all have to wonder, if you say the school motto, do you get like a free jeans pass? Like you said it I'm just kidding. Y'all got so excited for the school motto. I love that. But honestly, this team really embodies so many of the key words right now in education. You all are modeling collaboration for your students. You all are modeling that growth mindset. If you have a little flub, you mess up a little, you just keep going and it just keeps getting better. And I'm sure your students and families are so thankful that you all have such a strong village to support all of them. And really that's modeling equity, right? That you're pulling on everyone's strengths, and then every student in 3rd grade at Tab Elementary School is getting a very similar learning experience. And that is super powerful. That is awesome. So for sure, I love that school motto. Y'all definitely embody it. Miss Gregory is killing me with her laughter while she's on mute. Okay, the next question.
You're frozen. We're laughing at our frozen pictures.
You weren't frozen to everyone else. We could still see you. You were good.
Now look at us. Look at us.
That's why I was giggling, because Miss Gregory was giggling. Okay. I told y'all the afternoon session is just like your last block class. It goes a little haywire. But the next question we definitely want to hear from you guys on is, what are the specifics? It's nice to say that we work as a team. It's nice to say it takes a village. But no, really, how do you get this job done? How do you divide and conquer? How does this work out so successfully?
Well, I'll start with that. We usually choose a subject to plan with a partner, and when we are planning math or when we're planning reading, we will, just like we would if it was a regular, we unpack, we set out our pacing guide, and then we decide what we want to include in our video that we would also include in our classroom. So really it's, what are we going to do with the kids that are in the classroom? And then how can we also put that into a video where we're using our manipulatives the same way we would if they were actually in the building. And then those other layers that I mentioned earlier, that guided question, those guided, the prompts to what we're teaching, our Canvas activity and the other additional support that we have in our modules.
And I think also what's nice is that when we have this created and made, if there is a situation in which we want to access the Canvas model because maybe you have a really high flyer, and by no means do we ever want to hold a child back, you could extend them. You can give extend videos. You can do things like that for the kids where it's very focused. And if you finish a test early, I think we all were in this boat, we're finishing our time test. We were able to access the videos. No one missed a beat. You're always going to have the ones that are taking tests, and that last kid is still testing for 20 minutes after the rest of the kids, but we want to make sure that they have a good testing experience just as everyone else did. Well, that's okay. Everyone else go and pop on your headphones, and you're going to listen to Miss Emerson and Miss Phillips' math lesson, and when the child's finished with their test, everyone but one child has already had the entire math lesson. So either that one child, well, in our situation, that one child got a lesson from all the other 8 kids that already got to watch the video. And so they really, really enjoyed learning what the kids had learned, or your parent could pick it up where we left off and they could get that little small group instruction that's necessary. So I think that's another bonus to having that, the recorded videos.
And I just want to add, and I'm the virtual teacher, and having all this helps my students feel connected to the school. For example, yes, today the kids had to do a video on fractions, and Mrs. Emerson and Mrs. Phillips, they walked around TAP and they were finding fractions on the tiles of our school. And I just think that's cool because then my students can feel like they're at school and they can still meet all the other teachers, and we're all doing the same thing, whether you're virtual or you're in the classroom. And then it helps remind me, hey, I can do this. And yeah, you guys are doing these fun interactive with Play-Doh. I can do that in my virtual class. It reminds me that I can do the same stuff with my virtual kids as they're doing in the classroom.
Also, another valuable piece to having these almost daily videos, especially in our math and reading modules, and then sometimes our science and social studies as well, is in this crazy world that we're living in where a lot of our students are entering into quarantine every now and then. It has been such a blessing to have them feel so connected, like they're still in school. I've had 2 children in particular who have been out for nearly a month, and it has been so nice welcoming them back like they haven't missed a beat, because they're able to feel a part of our mini lessons that they know are really similar to what we're doing in class. And it's just flows so nicely. And the parents appreciate it too, like we alluded to earlier, because they might be in quarantine as well, and they're able to learn or relearn something and help their children too, where normally they might be at work. So that has definitely helped out tremendously with this just time we're facing, reality.
Yeah.
And I think part of that brings us to why we did it. You want to have those kids continuously learning and doing the flip-flop. If you're home and you do, Monday, Tuesday, and you're still homesick or quarantined, and you repeat the lesson for Thursday, Friday, well, then they've already done it.
Mm-hmm.
So they were missing that
Right.
instruction because they weren't coming in and getting that in-class lesson taught to them. So I think that's another reason why we kind of went into this model, just for making sure that everything is getting taught at a reasonable pace so that you're not lagging behind and it comes January and you're still back on, unit 2 for math, or we needed to be able to have more consistency so that when the kids do come in, they know where they are, they know what we're doing, and we can keep going. And we're not having to stop and go back. And so just keeping the same pace between both groups, I think, is also helpful.
Mm-hmm.
That was a perfect segue to our next question. Just what caused you guys to attempt this model of instruction? What is your motivation to keep it going? And I think those students that are experiencing quarantine and COVID is a really good motivator. And of course, just the kind of family atmosphere you guys have going across your entire grade level is another big motivator. But how did you decide on this would work best for your student?
I think when we realized that the kids were coming into the building, I think that was, for us in 3rd grade, it was subtraction with regrouping and across zeros. And at our building, some of the 2nd grade classes had gotten to that before that, March day when we shut down for quarantine, and some of the classes hadn't. So some of the kids didn't even know how to regroup. Period. That, we tell them you can't take 6 away from 3 and you have to go next door. So you go next door and you regroup and all that stuff. But when they were actually in class for 2 days, we had to essentially teach them 2 or 3 skills before we let them go home. And we would hope that somehow they've mastered that skill that we just kind of shoved their way, and that they were going to be able to do the same thing at home asynchronously for 3 days without theoretically any kind of teacher support, just written directions, activity after activity. And so we needed a way where we could stay on our pacing guide or our York County pacing guide, but also not cut corners with our teaching in person when we have them those 2 days, but also what the time we were using with them at home. Like we had to make the best of that too, because if they left the building not knowing how to regroup, and they're still saying that 6 or 3 minus 6 is 3, they're either going to continue to do that and now they've got it ingrained in them, or they're going to completely shut down because they don't even know where to start. They have no kind of support. They don't know, they're not Googling, they're not going to Khan Academy. They don't have that support at home, because some of our, like, let's be real, some of our kids are learning at home with their older brother or sister and without any kind of parent support. And their older brothers and sisters are also in school at the same time.
And I think it enables us to be able to go through that all the way from the concrete to that abstract without missing any pieces, without having to go all the way to the abstract. Like we can actually do concrete, representational. We can go through all the pieces and not have to miss anything when we're doing the daily videos.
My picture now.
It's like that little, what is that? The speedometer.
Oh, yeah,
When
yeah.
you go, sometimes you find yourself, when you go to 0, you have to gradually move up. But sometimes we were finding ourselves having to go so quick. We were like, whoa, 0 to 100. And we know we can't do that. That's not good teaching. So it enabled us to be able to go ahead and take it at the pace that we knew was best for the kids and still get more taught.
And this is perfect support for those students that, because of the situation last year or because of all sorts of factors, they're not on grade level and they need to have that additional scaffolding, have that additional support throughout the school year, for sure.
Being able to record our videos too adds an element of the creativity and some of the things that we don't have time for in the classroom, or wish we did. And because we see pictures and videos of all of these teachers that, dress up in any kind of costume and they come in and they're spending their colonial days. Well, when we record, we can also do those things and share those same resources with our teammates. And it just gives that element of engagement for our kids. And we really hook them in and they kind of buy into summarizing with the DJ. I was like, can you please share that? Because it's my favorite. I just giggled the entire time Mrs. Dawson and Mrs. Emerson were recording. And the kids, they buy into what you're selling, essentially. But
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
You buy into what you're selling.
Yep.
And it's good stuff.
And your families, have got to be just so thankful for all that you're pouring into your kids. I mean, there's no doubt the love you have for your students and your craft when you're going above and beyond and where you're putting in kind of those extra special touches. So I'm sure the people that have joined us are thinking, okay, this is all well and great, but what happens if a kid just doesn't do it? If a kid does not complete that video or that check, if they don't do the discussion board, are you back at square one? Then do you have a whole class that's ready to move forward in that one? How do you handle that?
Well, in the same way that if a student is in the classroom and doesn't complete an assignment, or they might choose not to do an assignment, we choose to remediate with them. Or if they didn't master a skill, we remediate with them over and over and over again until we can move on comfortably. So what we do in the evenings is we'll pop into Canvas and we'll go through our assignments, and sometimes really in depth, other times just a quick check to look to see which children are responding to those discussion posts. And if they're not, we can kind of get a little inkling they're probably going to be behind tomorrow, and we will pull them immediately for a remediation group. And know kind of how we're going to tackle the day with certain students who may have been a little off on their asynchronous day and not on. Also, we have seen a little bit of jealousy, maybe lack of a better word, between some students who may not have watched it, and then they kind of feel like they're on the outs the next day, like, wait, why did this happen? Like we were talking about earlier with Miss Dawson's hand, how she broke it. And one of Miss Phillips' children was like, well, why is your hand broken? And the other child was like, well, if you watched her video, you would have known. So then it kind of makes the children itch. Well, I want to be a part of this too. So it's rare that we don't have kids participating, but you're always going to have a few that unfortunately might hit next a little too quickly and not wholeheartedly give it their all on their asynchronous days. So just like we would do in the class, we'll prepare and remediate with those children that we see are not giving their absolute best at home for us for participation.
And honestly, if your videos are all like the example you showed, I'm sure they want to watch the videos. They want to see what kind of crazy y'all are cooking up next because y'all have so much fun. So I definitely wanted to wrap up this panel just by asking, how do you know that this is all worth it? How do you know that it's working? You know, what data do you have to show? What testimonies can you share with us? How can we really inspire the people that have joined us to give this a try?
Yeah, I'll share a few examples. So at the beginning when we were all virtually teaching and you have a kid stuck on a problem, they didn't have the language to try to express where they're stuck and what are they thinking, how are they going to figure this out. But then I started noticing after they started watching the videos, if I asked them to explain, well, where are you stuck? What are you doing so far? They started using the terminology from us. So April had this great one where she used a base 10 block and she said you karate chop it and you break it up and you give some to the ones, and that's for barring. So I would hear them say, okay, I would karate chop the 10s and I give some to the ones, and they could walk it through, and it just gave them some strategies, and then they started applying those to the tests. So I did notice that they didn't get stuck where they're frozen. I don't know what to do. They could remember the videos and go back. And then just 2 days ago, we were doing fractions equal and unequal, and Mrs. Phillips and Mrs. Emerson had a video where they had a candy bar, and Miss Emerson gave Miss Phillips some and just gave her a little piece of the candy bar. And Miss Phillips was like, wait, Mrs. Emerson, this isn't very fair. That's not equal. And so when I was showing them ones up there, hey, is this an equal shape? They said, no, it's like what Mrs. Phillips got. She only got a little piece. And that's not fair. So I think now, even when they go to the test, they're going to think, oh, yeah, that's not fair. That's not equal pieces. And then my last example I want to share is I did a video on elapsed time and the T-chart. And one of my parents sent me a message, said, hey, I've watched your videos and I still don't fully understand the strategies, because the only strategy I know how to teach my daughter is to count for the time, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. She said, so can I meet with you and we can practice more? I said, sure. So I got them both on, and they both had a whiteboard, the mom and the daughter, and they're figuring it out. And then the daughter took the test the next day and she got 100% on her telling time. And her mom just said, thank you so much for those strategies, because when she was counting it out with her hand, she kept getting it wrong. So now she had a good visual. So.
And also, I do want to toot Tammy's horn a little bit, because I had one of my EL learners come back after a time video that Tammy had made last week. And she spoke up and she said, Mrs. Emerson, I love that Mr. Wan said a clock is like a rolled up number line. And she said, that just made it click for me. And to hear a child who literally came to America a year and a half ago just regurgitate that information and understand it completely made my heart burst. And like you said, with the karate chopping, I also have some of my lower learners, some of my EL babies, who so precious. It's like they're able to parrot back some of the language that we're using in our videos across the grade level, and not only parrot it back, but really like becoming little teachers themselves. And really quickly, in last week, we had all those rainy days. I was making some videos during indoor recess time, and it was the first time my children had seen me behind the scenes. And lo and behold, after I was done videoing, I had 3 sweet little girls come up to me so proudly with their seesaw that they had been mimicking everything I said and made their own teacher videos. And that was just a moment for me. So proud. And so they were cheesy just like me, and I ate it up. So it's definitely working.
That is fantastic. You know, they've really gotten it when they become the teacher themselves, right? That's the best way to learn it. And honestly, all of these videos are fantastic support Tammy, you mentioned, the parent at home. So someone that wants to make sure that they're reviewing with their student or preparing or catching their student up, they can show these videos. They can refer back to them, before any testing throughout the year. And they'll honestly be a bank, a resource for you all going into next school year. I'm sure some of them, your favorites, you'll reuse. Some you'll say, hey, we can do that different. So like April said, you're investing time now, of course, but it's not time wasted at all. This is so valuable. And, the hope is that maybe you all can collaborate more and more with, different virtual teachers or different grade levels. I don't know that they can compete with your mojo that y'all have got working, but I think that that's really awesome that we have this throughout. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up this panel? If there is a teacher considering doing it, what's the best way to start? Or, of course, we're going to save a lot of our question and answers for next week. We hope people will join us as well. But any final words of encouragement?
I think, too, that one of the benefits of having recorded videos is that if you are a teacher and you can't reach those kids, whether they're EL or they have a learning disability, and they are not grasping that concept, and you're like, well, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing? What am I doing? You can pop into these videos just like our students do, and you watch the videos too of our peers. The best PDs are the ones that our teammates are creating and providing for us. And you now have an extra tool, an extra strategy in your pocket. Because I know that last week when Mrs. Dewan was recording the Z method, our third grade team was like, I've never seen that. And I was like, that's a third or fourth grade and fifth grade strategy that, one of our pairs had introduced to us when she was a pair for fourth and fifth grade. And having come from the fourth grade team, I was just like, it's definitely something that they're going to want to use. So if you introduce it now, they'll be able to use that tool next year, as well as you being able to use that this year for yourself and for the kids that you aren't able to reach. So that's been a benefit for myself, where I'm like, ooh, you know what? I never thought to do summarizing that way, and to pull these different pieces together and just use a different vocabulary word or different verbiage and that karate chopping terminology. It's been nice.
That mathematical. We do use the real mathematical terms too. That was just how we were breaking apart the big STEM block. And one piece of advice I would say, we kind of did take it on slowly. So not one person took on everything at one time, because I think that would be impossible. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to try it with one subject. That would be my my advice. So if you wanted to do it, just pick like, hey, I think that we could do this with math, or hey, I think we could do it with reading. But I wouldn't say jump in and try to do all of it at one time, because it could be overwhelming.
You'll definitely want to communicate with your families, work with your administration if there is anything that you're drastically going to change about those asynchronous days. All of that communication is definitely important. Well, thank you to this awesome panelist. Thank you to everyone that has joined us. I know the slide says there is an AM and PM session, but we actually decided to consolidate and just have a PM session next week. So we hope that all teachers that are interested in both the concurrent and synchronous and asynchronous model will join us at 1 p.m. next Wednesday for a question and answer conversation. It is going to be more open with people on the mic and people in the chat, and just having our fantastic panelists respond to your really specific needs or questions. So thanks for joining us today, and we hope you're able to get outside and enjoy the sunny weather. Bye, guys.
Bye, thank you.